Hi, this is Kara. Welcome to Breaking Free Fridays, or welcome back if you've been following the series. It's really great to have you here. And today I felt inspired to talk about the keys to escaping the should traps. I'm sure we can all relate to just the pressure that comes from I should do this, I should do that, I should have done this. The shoulds can go on and on. And oftentimes they come from ourselves, but it's also just a narrative that is in society, and people just use that word without even thinking about the implications or even the energy behind it. And part of the reason that this came up is I missed publishing and posting one of the Breaking Free Friday videos last week. And I take this really seriously, and I am very committed to sharing and helping other people. And so, even with a lot of inner work, my mind definitely took me for a moment to, oh my gosh, you should have done that. That was something that I committed to, and I should have done that. And yet there were a lot of reasons that it just wasn't possible for me. And, that's definitely an unusual circumstance. But what I found myself realizing is this opportunity for grace, for really adjusting to some of the unexpected that comes in life and rebalancing accordingly. And one of the things that I used to do was that I wouldn't allow for the rebalancing. I would push myself so hard that if I had committed to something at whatever expense to myself, I would follow through. And just through my own, journey in some very significant health crises and things like that, and just realizing the immense value of self-care and really taking a lot of care about our energetic frequency when life kind of shifted and I needed to reevaluate my priorities and how I was going to fit things in. I chose self-care. And sometimes, that's one of the things that we get to do, that we get an opportunity for having better boundaries that way. So anyway, just going into this topic a little bit more, there are often a couple of different traps that are should traps. More or less, the way out is similar, but, one trap is like an overload. So the overload shoulds. Those are things like, I should say yes, I should do more, I should do better. It's like beating yourself up about not being where you want to be, or, thinking that you're not doing enough. And this kind of pattern, it really lends itself to creating burnout, creating resentment, really actually struggling with health, because a lot of that gets correlated. We can drive ourselves to the ground with those overload shoulds. And then the other trap is the shame should. And, this can spiral us into like, I should be more disciplined, or, I should be choosing, something differently. And yet oftentimes, because there's a hook to shame in this particular should, people can find themselves in a place of procrastination, really feeling stuck, and and it's also a form of beating ourselves up, but it's an area where people might think that they should be further along. There again, everything has its perfect divine timing. And so one of the things that can happen with that shame should is there's just such criticism in it that it can really shut us down. And shame can just loop. It can keep us in a very negative space. It's like the difference between shame and guilt. Shame is like there's something wrong with us, or they're, really internalizing, something is bad within us. And I mean, we're all incredible beings of light, divine sparks. And so it's not a truth, but often we can feel a deep sense of this just based on our own experience and judgment of ourselves. And it's one of those things that is so important to break free of. So when you think about these traps, how do we get out of them? Because they almost become automatic patterns until we realize what we're doing and break free of it. So the first thing is identifying, what trap is actually triggering us. Like where are we stuck? What trap is it? And then the next thing is sitting with what is the true need that is underneath of that trap. What's actually going on below the surface. So in the overload trap, this is an invitation for really allowing for grace and release of unreasonable expectations. It's an opportunity to give ourselves grace around just that flow of learning to really master boundaries, but also the ebb and flow that naturally comes in life. We may have a certain plan for our schedule and, things are aligned in such a way and even, figuring out exactly how much time this is going to take and that is going to take. And something may shift that calls our attention and in our adjusting and realizing that there's a lot of gray in life, it's not just black and white, then we get to rebalance, reprioritize, and that's something that we can have grace for, because it allows us to really forgive when something doesn't go as we planned or go as we hoped. And the need underneath the shame, that's really about building trust. So it's really, and trust of self. That's something that is so valuable. It's like that, it's reinforcing the beauty and just how special that relationship with self is. So when you think about building that trust, and if somebody is dealing with the shame shoulds, one of the big things there is connecting to the person that you are striving to be, the identity of that person, and really connecting to one small thing that person, you in that identity, would choose as you embody that particular identity and aspect of yourself. And it could be some tiny little step forward, like maybe 5 minutes of cleaning out a cluttered drawer or something like that. And just, building those little steps towards showing that commitment, follow through for yourself, but not in a place that's really overwhelming, but those little steps are super powerful in breaking free of some of these patterns. So I invite you to look at ways you can release the shoulds. It is incredibly important for our empowerment, and I think you'll find you'll have a lot more peace and freedom. So let me know in the comments what's coming up for you, examples that you are seeing in your own life, or where you might be able to leave these shoulds at the door. And if you're enjoying these videos, subscribe, send a like, share them with your family, your loved ones. And one last thing that I'll leave you with, this is an important shift in language that is really powerful in breaking free of shoulds. When you catch yourself saying should, convert it to a choice. So I get to do this, or I choose to do this. This is my priority. That is incredibly freeing from really using that language that puts us in a place of should, that just inherently has a very critical energy to it. It's very punishing. And yeah, I just am wishing you such a beautiful upcoming week. And here's to your next level of empowerment and breaking free. Bye for now.